I love that we're speaking after so long. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Chai Together. I am your host and founder, Priti Bidet. Today, you are here with me and Miss Lis Hoyte. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yes.
I love your smile. I love our spirit. And Liz and I have been speaking for a few months now, but this is the first time where I'm actually visually speaking with her, and we've been already having a chat. So this is really cool. How do you feel?
Yeah, excellent. And just really humbled to have been, asked to come on. So yeah, really chuffed and really looking forward to spending this time with you and sharing my journey. And yeah, so yeah, great
You're
stuff.
just so happy, like a naturally happy person, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think I kind of, you have life experiences, don't you? And I think that through all the trials and tribulations that you can go through, sometimes you kind of hit your version of rock bottom. And when you do that, it kind of puts you into a different frame of mind, a different mindset. And it just makes you stronger, and it empowers you. And not only empowers you, but it kind of teaches you lessons that you would have never have learned without having those experiences. And while when they come into your experience initially, I know for me, I was kind of like, oh, why is this? I was very kind of, why is this happening to me? Or, what's going on here? And that kind of like blame and resentment. And now I've kind of got to a point in my life after, and I'm still healing and I'm still going on that journey. But it's just come to a point now where I'm like, do you know what can I learn from that? What have I learned from that experience? What can I take from that experience? And but equally, what can I share and teach with other people as well? So it's just about kind of reframing those experiences, and then kind of just going, this is life, it comes at us, and we're faced with different things, and you just think, well, that's just how it is. And but yeah, just really happy to be here, really happy to kind of be on, and just just enjoying life really, and taking it each day as it comes, but also just looking at the value within each day. This massively helped me throughout sort of certain really tricky times in my life. So yeah,
it's a vibe. I'm like, it's a vibe. You are a coach. I approve. So tell me about Lis. Really, what is that your catch line for you?
And it's my it's my website as well. So it's www.lisreallywork.com. But equally, it's kind of, those were really and what, as in really question mark what question mark was what I said to myself a lot going through trying to kind of break free from my coercive control and relationship. And I found that all the kind of pitfalls and how difficult it was to actually break free once I made that decision, that was just like my two go-to words. I mean, I would just go, really? What? Or this has happened? Or, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this has happened. And I just found myself saying those words. And so when I kind of eventually did break free, in October 2019, I really wanted to put the message out there and kind of share my story, but I wanted to do it in a productive way. So when I made that first decision, I was, to be honest with you, I was just too angry. I was too resentful. I was blameful. And it really wasn't a good time to have written the book. So a year sort of later, actually, 13 months later, I was on a group coaching call, and the wonderful Tanya Coley came on, and since then I just remember being on that call and going, she looks nice. And just basically, and I used that word. I said I did. I basically stalked her, and I remember just being on that call, and I kind of was like, And obviously it came out, she was a book publisher and a personal development coach, and all the wonderful things that she does and who she is as a human being. And I remember actually being on the call and saying, sorry, what are your contact details, and literally searching her on sort of LinkedIn and places. And kind of making contact. And then after that we just kind of got into talking, and I kind of said to her, I really want to write the book. And just literally on that call back in November 2020, she had just gave me like these three really succinct, awesome steps to follow, which I followed, and I managed to write the book within 3 months. And I think
Wow.
the pace of it was because I always knew exactly what my message was and how I wanted to say what I wanted to say and how I wanted the book to be written. And so then kind of formed the title, and it's Break Free. A transformational journey and paradigm shift out of coercive control.
Wow.
And
That's a
yeah,
heavy name.
yeah, no, and that will be available next month in August. So it's been a journey in itself, and it's been great healing as well to write the book, but also put, you know, within the book it's included just kind of steps that helped me throughout my journey, and things that I have discovered about myself as a person, and how, the thoughts that we think, impact our life greatly, and how we view ourselves as human beings has a massive impact on our life as well. So yeah, in terms of just like, making sure, because I wanted to get the book out and I wanted the book to follow on with a support coaching program as well to help people. And I remember writing the book and, being like no money, no nothing, and just thinking, how can I reach out? How can I reach out and help people who would be in my situation now? Because I ain't got any money, so I can't afford coaching. I can't afford anything.
Wow.
It's literally just me. And I thought, well, if I can write a book and if that can help just one person, um, have an awareness of their situation and what they're going through, and if that can help them in any way, then that started the momentum in the right direction, in terms of reaching out and helping more and more people. So that's kind of like the backstory of the book, really, and just kind of waiting and looking forward to it, and coming out. And I always wanted to write it, as I said, not from a kind of slagging off point of view, and bringing up. It's very focused on what can we do, as individuals and as human beings, to begin to feel worthy of ourselves, begin to love ourselves, and how we can kind of just make those small decisions step by step, little by little, to start getting us in the momentum of making positive changes in our lives. Um, so yeah, really excited and really chuffed about the book, coming out, but quite nervous as well. Like, sometimes, and basically, it's just taking a while to kind of, just kind of read through things, because, as I say, we want to make sure that it's, kind of, readability and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so it's going well, and it's all positive, and that's the next kind of little thing that I had set myself
Wow.
as a goal to achieve.
Yeah, because you said no money, no coaching. It's you had the mindset that, hey, if I can write this book, I can do more without needing to invest in coaching and those things. Do you feel like, I mean, you've already done it, like you've already been there. So do you feel like those things can come after, but you should put the product out first?
Um, yeah, so I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think that the, getting the book out was, what is really important.
Hmm.
And I think that it doesn't really, it can take its form in all sorts of ways. But I think that, yeah, a combination of lots of different things, and and sometimes we think that something will kind of work better,
Mm.
doing something first, and then you're like, actually, no, I'll probably change that. But I think that it's like with every problem, there's always a solution, and I think that you can always work around things, can't you? And kind of, just be hopeful and be positive about whatever decisions we do make, and whatever format it sort of comes in, and whatever order, we just kind of got to go with it and just ride with it. um
Wow. I
and
really
it's
like
all
that.
learning.
I like that you said whatever order it comes in, you know?
Yeah.
So have you first I want to know about, you also states on your website, the inner game is the most important game you can win. This sounds so, it reminds me of just like a young spirit. The inner game is the most important game you can win, like a gamer, or like, are you into anime? Like,
So what? Yeah, the reason why, it's because, it is, and I think that a lot of that came from what I had learned, because I started to listen a lot to Florence Scrivel Shin.
Mm.
And she does, her just listening to, obviously when she was a wonderful metaphysician, I can't even say the word properly, and all the wonderful work that she had done back in the day. And I remember I got to a point where I started listening to her, and one of the things that really helped me was the power of the spoken word.
Wow.
And also the game of life and how to play it. And when I kind of thought about what was actually happening to me,
Mm.
I was like, actually, it's not about the external. It's an inside job out. Whereas before, my understanding and my mindset was very focused on the external in. I'm looking outside. How can I make myself feel better from something that's happening, from social media, from another person, from a friend? And while those things are important, you kind of do, for me, I feel you have to pay less attention to that, because the more attention you give to the external, the more you have an expectation that something's got to make you feel better. Something else other than you has got to make you feel better. And I think I,
Wow.
for all of my detriment, I think that for me was the key. That actually, the inner game is the most important one you can play, because ultimately it's just between you and you. And really there isn't anybody. There's that, it's, you don't want to have people in your life based on conditions. Do you know what I mean? Or the
Mm.
condition that if I do this, I'm going to love you, or I'm going to do this for you. It comes from
That's,
within. And
yeah.
when I started to build on myself and work on myself, I realized that this is the inner game, and this is the only thing that I can control. Any other external circumstance, anybody else, I can't control that. And even the expectation to do that is unfair. So let me work, let me be here. I can be here. And I thought that is great. And I can kind of put that on there to just kind of show a little bit about me and what I'm about, and what I hope to achieve in terms of helping and supporting people. And
Mm.
once you've kind of got to that point, things can happen and your life can start to change, because you have that inner belief, you have that inner faith, that nothing can break you. You're just kind of out there, and that's not to disregard other people, because you welcome other people in when you feel like that. You've almost got more to give. Do you know what I mean? When you
Mhm.
when you work on yourself, and when you're not taking, it's about giving, and it's about serving others. And it's kind of, I always, sometimes if I'm in town, I sometimes, it's probably only sort of once every 1.5 sort of 2 months, and there's like some homeless people in town, and what I tend to do, um I used to sort of give money, and now I just
Mm.
love it, because I'll go up to them and I'll actually have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
um and I'll kind of say, oh, what do you fancy to eat? And they kind of look at me like, what? And it's like, well, I'm going to go in the shop and I'd rather buy you something, and have a conversation with you. And
Wow.
I found that for me, it really helped, because I think, for me growing up, I had a stereotype, do you know what I mean, about, like a homeless person. And I thought, do you know what? In part of my growing and healing, and
Mm.
kind of that accepting of everything and everyone, and it was nice to just have these conversations, because there was so much that these people taught me, about life, and about hardship, and about sacrifice, and it just totally changed my perception. And that's something I've probably been doing that for about 6 or 7 years, but it
Wow.
totally changed my perception on different people. But equally, my perception was, oh my gosh, they must be really down and upset and unhappy. And some of these people were the happiest people in the world. Even the people that had loads of money weren't as happy as these people that were kind of, do you know what I mean, sort of on the
Mhm.
street. And it just made me reframe my thinking, in terms of, what it is about the inner game. You can be earning whatever you want, but it doesn't mean to say that you're happy, or you could
No.
be earning nothing. And the time that I spent with these people was amazing. So yeah, back to your initial question of, so the
You're
inner game
good.
is the only game you can win. So yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say, you know what? I from like movies like Home Alone and different things. I've learned that Homeless people have a clique of their friends, you know, at least one other person wants it, four other people. And that's why they're so happy, because they're not in it alone. Reason why even wealthier people, it's because I've noticed I have friends who are millionaires and different things,
Yeah.
right? But even though they have a family, kids, money, everything, they're still sitting in a bar, for example, because they're lonely. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So things like that. And it's because of the human connection. That's really the
Mm.
difference. So
Yeah,
that's such a good thing.
absolutely.
So what did you notice when you spoke to, you know, homeless people? What did you like? Did they say how they got there to that, you know, their situation?
Yeah, some of them was that
Mhm.
actually quite surprising, where some of them would say that they had moved over to this country, got married, the marriage failed,
Mhm.
and their partner had ended up taking basically sort of everything from them, and they ended up
Wow.
in that position. Some of it would be teenagers who had kind of sort of rule breaking at home. Parents had kind of, sort of at their wits' end, and some of them ended up homeless for that reason. Um, some people who had just come out of prison had ended up like that, in
Mm.
terms of not being able to, find work or find accommodation. So there were so many sort of, varied reasons as to why people were in that position. And so yeah, but it like I said, it was an eye opener. But equally, it kind of opened up my eyes to how people's experiences has an impact on their way of life, how they think, how they treat other people. And that was always really important to me, and something that I hold dear in having those conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, all I can think of is the fact that, you know, you have a home you're sitting in, I have a home I'm sitting in. And I remember, like I was telling you last year, I remember how it felt to not have a permanent place to stay. And you don't feel, until you have a base, right? You don't feel
Mm,
stable. Like my things were in a suitcase all the time, going from here to there. So it's like there's no stability. It takes an emotional toll on you. And you can't, like, I can't, like, you know, be focusing on school, like, without having somewhere to stay. You know, it's just, and then I feel like that's the most important thing, is to get someone, you know, a permanent shelter. Even a guest who came on yesterday,
mm,
Andre Van Loon, he was in foster care, and up until later in his years, he got adopted at 10. He got adopted, but until then, it's like he didn't know where he's going each
mm.
time. And it's like, you know, I don't, it's whatever hand someone is given, but it's, as a human being, I don't feel we come into this world just so we can get stepped on, you know, in various
Yeah,
situations. It's just
yeah,
really, but, and he had also stated yesterday that he doesn't feel that everyone needs to go through these situations to become something. Some
yeah,
people do without having like a tragic situation happen. And
yeah,
then there's
definitely,
people like
yeah.
him and I, where it's like, oh, it was tragic, so we became something.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah,
because most people, he said it really directly. He was like, either that or he was like suicide. Like, that's most people do because they're not resilient. And
yeah,
it's not shaming them. It's just the way our brains are wired. It is what it is. You know, there's really
yeah,
no explanation, not that I know
yeah.
of.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, there's so many of us. I think that when it comes to sort of, mental health, I think we all have things that we've struggled with in the past or currently. But I do think there's always still a little bit of a stigma around that. Certainly in the UK there is, that, we
Oh
we we
wow,
don't we
yeah.
don't want to sort of talk about it. We don't want to sort of get it out. We see it as sort of, a sign of weakness. However, I've had mental health issues, for a long time, and it's not the fact that it's, I think the fact that I even say an issue, it's just mental health, isn't it? And I think that,
Yeah.
um, once we get to the point that, that we can just talk about it and just kind of accept it for what it is. But equally, it's just one of those things that does happen to many of us, if not the majority of us in our lives. And I think that, we should be creating more of a safe space, in order for us to feel comfortable about speaking about it. to one another, and also to other people. So yeah, it's definitely something that I've experienced in my life, and it's taught me many things about myself, and I'm excited to keep learning about who I am, and why I think certain ways, and what does that mean? I think it's absolutely amazing. So it's about kind of just embracing our mental health and just sharing it as much as possible. And what can come of that? We can learn from each other, and we can kind of offer each other support in different ways and in different capacities. So I'm all for talking about the mental health.
You're so funny. I want to ask why I didn't hear that before, that in the UK it's still like a big stigma. Not a lot of mental health workers or people like
Yeah,
talking
I think
about it.
I'm talking more just kind of like, within sort of friends and
Mm,
family, it's one of those things where I've, never sort of felt comfortable to just kind of, start talking about something like that.
yeah.
And I think that, I do think that a lot of people, do have that and do live by that they would rather not talk about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And make probably take sort of more on the medication side, because if you're on the
Mm,
medication side for it, you tend not to talk about it, because you
mm,
don't want to sort of tell people, oh yeah, well, I'm sort of taking that for my mental health.
mm.
And actually, we could potentially reduce mental health, by talking about it, and
Right.
doing less of the taking of the medication.
Because you're in
um,
the root of the issue.
yeah, do you know what I'm saying? So, I think it's a learning curve, for everyone, and but still, you can kind of look at that whole sort of thing in a positive way, can't you? And just know that, it's one of those things sometimes when, you feel that someone else doesn't want to talk about it or doesn't want to say anything. Sometimes it's just
Mm.
about going, do you know what, I'm going in. I'm just going in. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to talk about it. And 9 times out of 10, you'll be surprised that people are like, wow, and they want to get out their stuff as well. So yeah, it's just about kind of almost taking the lead on it, I think, as well, which is
So
really
funny.
positive.
This reminds me of Sex in the City, the second movie, and where they're both moms. It was Miranda and Charlotte. They were sitting. I don't know if you've seen the movie. Have you?
No, I
No.
haven't.
But they were having a scene where they're sitting at their bar in their hotel room. They're in a luxury room, and she's just like, let it out. She was like, let me go first. So she says, I love Brady, as much as she loves her son. She was like, but oh my God. Like, as in they love their kids, but
Yeah,
how hard it is to be a mom. I mean, you're a mom. I'm not a mom. But
yeah,
finally, Charlotte is able to let it out after someone speaks up first. And then
yeah,
she starts crying, and they feel so much better after releasing and sharing the same experience as a mom, because from what I've heard and seen, that moms can, of course, postpartum, but can be really hard on themselves because they're trying to be the best mom. But
yeah.
it's like you're basically putting your child first before you, after you become a mom, for I think a certain amount of time. So
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, it's that kind of, the whole sort of notion of self-care, isn't it?
mm,
It's I found it really difficult, to kind of, care about myself. I didn't really know what that meant, if I'm honest with you. I didn't really know what self-care meant. And so it was always about, making sure that I cared about other people first. And
wow.
actually, when I sort of reframe it now, if I'd have kind of put myself first, not in a, well, you can call it a little bit of a selfish way, but ultimately I would have been able to give more,
Mm,
if I'd have kind of concentrated on me a little bit more. But like you were saying, and I think you're exactly right. It's like, as mothers, we feel, we've got to make sure that, we deal with our children, but equally, it's got to come from here first. Do you know what I mean? For us to be able to do a better job at that. And it's like that saying, isn't it, that a lot of people use about, being on the aeroplane and something goes wrong. You want to
oh
grab
my
the
God.
oxygen mask. You know what I mean? And like, you kind of, oh, get the kids. But actually, it's like, okay, calm yourself. Let's do you, and then you'll be able to deal with this situation better. So yeah, but totally understand what you mean in terms of, yeah, kind of being the mum and, wanting to kind of, do everything, and make sure that the kiddies come first, which is, do you know what I mean? But it's just, you've got to do a little bit for yourself first.
You're so funny. I feel like you can be an actress as well. What do you think?
Yeah, no, yeah. I wouldn't be very good at remembering my life.
Right. I agree. So I know your background's in education. So what grades did you teach and for how long? Yeah.
So I taught probably for about, oh gosh, about 4 or 5 years.
Mm.
And yeah, so it would have been um high school. So it would have been from, well, we call it year seven to 11. So key stage 3 and key stage 4.
Wow.
And so I used to teach humanities for the key stage 3, which would have been
Oh, wow.
history, geography, RE, excuse me, and for the key stage 4, which was GCSE, I taught health and social care and
Oh,
psychology. So yeah,
I can see it.
can you?
Wow. So you're not teaching now?
No, so I came out when I had my first child, who
Mm.
is 9 years old now. I saw my year 11s through, because I kind of didn't sort of want a supply teacher coming in at that point. Not
Mm.
necessarily being disrespectful, but it's kind of your baby, and you want to make sure that you kind of get them through. And I remember being sort of like 38, 39 weeks pregnant, just like on the classroom floor, just like, do you get
Oh my
this? Do you
gosh.
understand? And I managed to kind of get that last year through, and then that was my time where I came out of teaching, and I left. And then what I did, I then I was always a youth support worker in my kind of
Oh.
late teens, early 20s, before teaching, and then I kind of moved out of mainstream school and then went into independent schools, working in a children's home, and there I just focused on a little bit of health and social care to start with, and then kind of ended with psychology, and then sort of in last year, really, I just kind of I left that job, and then decided to build this business and start this business in terms of helping and supporting people, specifically with coercive control, because obviously that's something that I had sort of experienced for 18 years, and so yeah, kind of here I am
Hmm.
here I am now.
Yeah, two things I want to know. So the children's home, was that for abused children or what kind? Like orphans?
Yeah, so that was a children's home for girls and boys with emotional and behavioural difficulties. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
because one of my dreams is to open a children's home somewhere they can come stay. Kids who
Oh,
are abused
lovely.
usually, yeah, because they usually, I mean, that was me, but they have nowhere to go. Where can they go as a child? So, possibly they can stay there until they get moved to like a permanent location.
Oh, that's
So,
such a lovely idea. Like, lovely.
yeah. And you're stating the cohesive control. Is that correct?
Coercive control. Yeah,
Coercive control.
yeah,
Okay.
coercive.
Let me get that
Yeah,
right. Tell us
yeah,
more about that.
yeah. So coercive control, and this is kind of just kind of my sort of sort of definition that just to make it more
Mm,
talk, so we can talk about it more. It's basically it's like a behavioral strategy, or that's kind of brought in to create sort of codependency within a
mm,
relationship, and it's usually there to kind of entrap, dominate, and control over a period of time. And yeah, that's something that I experienced for 18 years. So that was my
wow.
decision in terms of, okay, this is what I want to do. And some of the signs, if I can just say, it could be something like monitoring somebody's activities,
Hmm.
financial abuse, intimidation, isolation, and what I really struggled with within that relationship was the gaslighting. And just for anyone that's not sort of quite sure in terms of gaslighting, it's just that kind of distortion of your reality, which I really struggled with. And then which in turn kind of affected my mental health in terms of how I saw things, how I believe things
Mm.
to be. And that was a real struggle for me. And so, yeah, this whole, everything that I've built on has been around this experience in order to help and support other people.
I think that's really good and really important. I've been through that as well. So for you,
Mm.
that was a romantic relationship?
Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. which always makes it real, you know, from me, because obviously I can't speak of the coercive control in a different sense,
Mm.
but for mine is it was obviously, you know, a partner that I had been with for, you know, for 18 years, and, you know, got together with in sort of my early teens. So it's kind of the thing that I really struggled with within coercive control is that you know, these little things are so incremental, you don't necessarily realize that they're happening, and then all of a sudden, I remember when I left, I was like, how did I get here? Like, how did I
Right.
actually get here?
Right.
What what really, what? You know, it's
Liz,
all,
really?
yeah, exactly. And I kind of was always like, how did I get here? Because, you know, I didn't recognize the signs, and although I had people sort of around me before I did, um because of the distortion of my reality, I kind of didn't really know my own mind, which made it even more difficult for me to kind of break free and leave that. And so yeah, it was a tricky one, but I kind of don't necessarily look at that relationship as, oh my God, it was bad. I've in order for me to heal from that, I've reframed it, and I've said, actually, it's allowed me to be aligned with my purpose, and actually before the relationship, and even within the relationship, I always questioned or wanted to know the answer. You know, what is my purpose? What am I here for?
Mm.
What am I doing? And actually, I just had to align with it. This experience was a direct path into coming out of what I experienced, and to be able to help somebody else.
Wow.
And that's how I've dealt with it, and that's how now it's enabled me to have an awareness, and write a book, in terms of, you know, specific tips and things that I can show that worked for me. And I'm not saying that one, you know, one fits all, but just sometimes having that awareness of what you're going through helps, because I didn't have that awareness. I was, you know, I'm very much a person with, if something's wrong, I want to fix it. I want to make it right. And when you have somebody going, it's your fault, oh, it's because you do this, it's because of you, I just literally just absorbed all of it, and it was like, right, okay, I just accepted it. It was, all of it was me, and I need to make sure that I can make it right, and I can, I don't want to be seen as this person, I don't want to be seen as that. So I try in but in trying to make it right, I lost myself, and that was at my detriment. But equally, it's helped me to realize that, you know, I do believe now, you know, we create our, you know, we can create our own understanding of what we're going through. And now I have an understanding of what I went through and why I went through it. It makes it so much better to be able to deal with, but equally heal, because it is a healing journey. And I don't believe that I'll ever be done learning and developing myself as a human being. But I
No.
think that experience has just opened up so many different doors for me, but been able to speak to people, and, you know, and have more confidence in myself. You know, the person that, you know, is talking to you here now, no, I'm not the finished article. I don't think I ever will be, but, you know, I wasn't like this before. I didn't even want to look in the mirror. Even some days now, if I'm honest, I
Wow.
struggle to look in the mirror for long periods of time, because of, you know, how I was described, and what, and things that I believed that I was, or how I looked in that relationship. So you know, for me to kind of even, you know, sort of be on here and speaking, and spending sort of more than 5 minutes in the mirror in the morning getting ready is still big, massive steps for me. So but equally, once every time I've done that, I have like a little list, and I just tick off, and I'm like, I've done that, I never thought I could do that. And I think that's nice in terms of the healing, but also to show myself how far I've come, but how much further I still need to go.
Wow. You know, the mirror aspect, I've heard that before. And, you know, that's trauma. That's, you know, the emotional trauma. So for you, did you also have any physical trauma from that partner?
It was very rare, and it wasn't something that happened um, all the time. And when
Mhm.
I say all the time, it was really very rare. But when it did happen, those physical altercations, when I talked to other people about it, when I started to share things with people, they were like, oh my God, that's really bad. Whereas because it didn't happen, it was quite rare for it to happen. I just never associated it with that. And I think that's always
Mm.
been tricky, especially with coercive control, because, you know, I like to say, you know, not all violence is physical, because actually, if it had have been that, I believe that I would have been very different. I would have been like, oh no, I'm not having that. I can't put up with that. I don't want someone, doing that to me. But because
Mm.
actually it was probably more damaging in the long run, because this was happening to me every single day. You know, the put downs were every single day. You know, being told I was, incapable of doing the most simplest tasks was been told every day. And over a stretch of 18 years, that became my belief system. I just believe that. And once you're in that, it's really hard to break free from and to try to reframe things. So actually, in terms of the confusion that I felt, because I always grew up with that, that if you're not been sort of physically assaulted or raped, it's not sort of domestic violence, it's not domestic abuse. So in my head, I've got um, uh, these ideas, really actually these ideologies of what domestic abuse was. So I
Mm.
didn't associate what I was going through, because I wasn't being sort of physically hit and raped, as abuse at all. I just didn't see it as that. I just didn't. So that made it difficult. But equally, what it has done, it's allowed me to look into coercive control. It's allowed me to, on my own journey, speak to people and go, that's another thing that happens. That can happen. That can happen. Because I think the more we can form these patterns and build to, begin to build a picture of how um, the ones who feel that they need to control and the ones that are experiencing it, I think that the more we can kind of get a bigger picture and an idea, the more we can reach out and help people. But it's about, for me, it was just always about spreading awareness of coercive control, because I had no awareness. And actually, if I didn't start to speak out about it, I probably still would have been in that relationship, which would absolutely not have served me in any way, shape, or form. So, but yeah, kind of all positive things moving forward in terms of where I'm at now with my understanding of things, and exactly, and even more so clarity on where I want to go with this. So
Do you speak to women about this yet?
so it, and it could be women sort of all over the world, and that ultimately is where I'm, sort of picking up those patterns and those correlations, and okay, yeah, this happens, and that's a similar experience, and it helps me because I'm able to kind of offer better support to those individuals as well. So yeah.
And your coaching is in this as well?
Yeah. So the coaching is within coercive control, and so and actually it's one of those things, because when I first sort of started out, when you start to do something, when you start to do something, people go, what qualifications have you got? And it's like 18 years. Do you know what I mean? You kind of, when you go there, but I did, I kind of reached out and I did like, my diploma in life coaching, and I always wanted to be on stage, because it was my fear of people looking at me, my fear of people, I don't know, just looking at me. Now people looking at me now. um, but I had that kind of fear, and I thought that's going to be my ultimate goal. I'm going to be on the global stage, and I'm going to spread awareness on coercive control, but equally that same message on the website. Your inner game is the game that you can win. And so in November I made a decision, and I said I want to get certified speaker status, and I managed to do that. And I did a speech at the World Coaching Leadership Summit this year, the 10th of May, which I never thought I could do. I was so nervous. Well, about a week before, wow, I just couldn't sleep. Honestly, it was crazy. And I managed to do that. And it was like another tick box of something that I had set my intention to do, made a decision, and just kind of gone with it. So I was just um, so so chuffed with myself that I could even do it. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of want to take that further, and I want to make sure that, you know, I'm reaching our young people, because I think, you know, this is where we need to be at. We need to be spreading the awareness at the level of, you know, even primary school, obviously, in terms of healthy relationships. So you know, go into a primary school and start kind of talking about, you know, coercive control necessarily, but healthy relationships to help children
Yes.
have an understanding and an awareness, and then the high school and then the university. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my tick list of, you know, things where I want to go in the future.
I definitely would start with elementary, because I remember not knowing about, there was this gentleman, he came in, it was like he mentioned, you know, in a relationship, emotional, physical, verbal, and whatever else. So like
Yeah.
overall he was saying that a relationship is, you know, of these components. And I
Yeah.
didn't learn that till high school. Then I was like, wow, physical, verbal, emotional, and whatever else he said.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow, I never knew, like, oh, it has to be a balance. But in high school, that's the first time where I heard of that. But they should be teaching about, you know, your emotional health, mental health, all those things starting in elementary school.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I definitely like would recommend that. Who knows? Maybe I'll do that one day myself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Do a
And
little thing together. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
it's it's just so interesting. Yeah, have you thought of TED Talk for you?
Well, I have, because I went through the Speak Up challenge.
Mhm.
I've actually got some like a training to do for like a TED talk. They kind of like sort of do that and prepare you for that, and that is that is something that I would love to do. So, you know, that is definitely on the agenda, at some point in my days before I leave this physical body. I will have definitely done that.
Wow.
And also it would be great, because it would be, like I said, it was one of my ultimate goals to kind of be on the stage, on that global stage, and just sharing my experience, but never from that, you know, that kind of negative place that I was in. Always that, you know, that positive spin and that reframing and experience is just so important to me. And especially when, you know, and there's a chapter in the book actually that I talk about, and it is the power of the spoken word. And I think that that is so important, because while, you know, I think we've been conditioned that when you're in a position like that, you know, to keep talking about it. But then for me, actually, that didn't serve me, because I just
Mhm.
found myself in that negative spiral, talking about what I didn't want in my life. And so I
Mhm.
made the decision to stop doing that and switch it and say, well, hang on, what I am going to talk about is I'm going to
Mhm.
talk about where I want to go. I'm going to talk about what I want to do, and I'm going to talk about my vision, and I'm just going to keep imagining great stuff happening in my life, and
Yeah.
that's where I'm going to focus. And actually, you know, not many people are, and not in a negative way, but actually I found that people kind of didn't really know how to handle that, because they were so used to supporting me from my ranting. Do you know what I mean? So I'd be like, "Arr," and they would support me with that. But actually, they kind of sort of lost their place a little bit, because I'd gone, I'm just not talking about it anymore. And it's like, oh, well, have we done any? No, you haven't. You've been
Mm.
absolutely wonderful, beautiful people, but I'm just not going to talk about it anymore, because I'm finding when I talk about it, I find myself right back there. And I hadn't actually even been there yet that day. I started talking about
Wow.
it, and I found myself kind of getting swiped back into it. So it was really lovely in the sense that, you know, I kind of, you know, made that decision, and it didn't happen straight away. It's, you know, it's silly to think that it can, because it is part of your program, it's part of your behavior, it's part of what you do. But for me, I kind of, you know, even if I said to myself, right, for the next 10 minutes, I'm just going to put Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on, I'm going to just laugh, and I'm just going to not think about anything like that. And of course, we all know that when you try to stop thinking about something, you can't stop thinking about that thing you're thinking about. So it was really difficult, and it does take practice. And I would, you know, really insist on patience at this point. But it was that kind of, you know, what can I say to myself that's positive and that's good, and just leave it there, you know?
I like what you said there about not wanting to talk about the same things. Kind of like what I was telling you before we went live, that I've moved on from, you know,
Mm,
that history of me. This is my new chapter and new journey continuing
yeah.
forward. It doesn't, we don't stay in 2020, you know, now moving forward, new education, new things. And I also like what you said about the negativity of going back into it, because when I was younger I used to write my pain, the abuse and things that would happen to me. I would write about it, and then I stopped writing one day, and I love to write, but I was like, I don't go back to read this stuff, and I can't
Yeah.
keep writing about my pain. So it's good that
Yeah.
I came to a point where I was like, as a child I was smart enough to know, as a teenager, to stop writing about my pain, because it makes me feel like S. So, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's just too painful to keep writing about horrible experiences only. So
Yeah.
it's really incredible how your mind, even as a child, or there's really no age to it, can stop you. And I made a choice, like, no, I'm not going to write about this crap anymore. you know,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it is what is really important what you're saying, because it is about how we feel. And now
what
I
we
kind of
write
look at, yeah,
makes it more
definitely.
real for me,
Yeah,
possibly. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Made it
yeah,
more like
exactly.
suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if we do go on that, because we all have these wonderful emotional guidance systems, don't we? And
Mm,
I think that when we kind of ignore how we feel, because we think we should be doing something, it keeps us stuck. And actually, I've tried to even reframe using the term stuck. It's just kind of, it was just patterns of behaviors and programs that just don't serve me anymore.
mm,
Because I found sometimes even the word stuck, I was like, I'm stuck, so I'm stuck. Do you know what I mean? I'm telling myself I'm
mm,
stuck, so I'm stuck. So, um, but yeah, in terms of just being able to kind of always just rely on how you're feeling, and if something doesn't feel good, then it's I had to give myself permission to go, just don't do it. Then if it's genuinely making me feel like that, doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or says or feels I should or shouldn't be doing, because actually a lot of the time that was to my detriment, because I wanted to appease and please other people. I kind of got to the point in my life, it's like, you know what, I kind of don't really feel like this is just not right for me. But I would openly say it in a calm, positive way. And I'd say, I'm
mm,
just not going to do this, whoever, or I'm just not going to do this right now. And actually, do you know what? I might look at this, but at the moment, I'm just not going to do that. And the relief from that was amazing. And actually people were really supportive. That was something that I kind of had within myself, that I kind of needed to kind of please and appease so many people apart from myself, and it was just
mm.
nice that people were able to kind of support me in that. So yeah.
What about, people who don't serve you, such as I was talking about? What about that? Have you let go of people throughout these times?
Yeah, and I think also is, rather than I've what I'm able to do now is, I think that everybody, depending on what mood I'm in, I think everybody has something important to say, and
Mm,
if it's not necessarily what I want to hear at the moment, sometimes I kind of check in with how I'm feeling at that time.
mm,
That emotional system. So how am I feeling? Do I feel a little bit annoyed about something? Yeah, okay, well, I'm probably not going to take on board or hear what you're going to say at this point, so I'll probably get back to you whenever, or maybe we can conversate at another time. But equally, I think that what I've learned is people tend to give advice from where they're at. And while I may not agree with it, and while I feel that sometimes it doesn't serve me, I still always listen, because I think we can all do that. Do you know what I mean? But equally, I tend to limit my time with people when I get to the point where I think I'm kind of really not where you're at. And I don't mean that I'm up here and they're down here, because it might be that just switches up depending on how we all feel on a daily basis. We all have those up and down days, and so I'll always listen, and I'll always take it on board. But then actually, if something doesn't serve me, then I kind of sometimes look at what that person's life is, but with no disrespect in mind. But actually, if it's not something where I would kind of want to follow and go to, I still listen, like I said, but I just don't take that on board. And for me, that's really helped, and I don't feel sort of any
mm,
pressure that because somebody who's a little bit more forceful will tell me to do something. I'm more than happy to sort of go, I'm prepared to always listen to you, because I think that that's just part of me, just being respectful to everybody. But equally, if your life is not necessarily how you want to live, I can't I can't realistically accept your advice and bring it into mine. And so, but that's kind of, something that I've learned. But equally understand if someone's at that point, that's just where they're at, and that's okay too. So yeah.
Like me, I don't take advice from broke people, from people who don't have what I want. That's about it. Like those two things. Because no, I don't know if you know about Sadhguru. Do you know Sadhguru?
No.
Sadhguru. He's a gentleman in India. He's a yogi mystic. He has a white beard. You may have seen him.
Yes,
You may have seen his
I've seen a couple of
face.
posts on his on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yes,
But for him, he I did his inner engineering program as well, and I'm gonna meet him. And because he does have that where you can go on like hiking with him in the mountains and programs, right? But not because of COVID. So what he says is, I was really hardcore following him last year because he really helped me through everything and to stay calm. His videos, even the free content. And he said how he never gives advice, or like he doesn't take advice. And it really makes me think like, yeah, because you're not being influenced by someone else's thoughts. Like, I don't like opinions. On like when I make my post, for example, on Facebook, I'm not asking for opinions. I'm making a statement. And I told someone this yesterday. If I would have asked, I would ask it with a question mark. But I don't need your opinion. Like, especially if it's something negative, I don't want you posting that on there. So he talks about like the advice aspect, and it makes me think, that how much we're influenced by, hey, what do you think? Should I wear red or blue? What do you want? Like, you know what I mean? Or what, even when people ask about like web logos or whatever, I can see how that's for marketing and to know what catches people's eyes. But it's really for Chai Together, for example. I didn't ask anyone, hey, what do you think about my logo? What do you think about my mug? Like, I painted it myself and then I put it on the cup. But what I'm saying is, I don't ask for validation, but I believe that's to each their own. I'm just that bold of a person where I don't have to ask someone before I make a decision. Like we were talking about before, like I don't have time for that.
And I think as well, when we do make the decisions, and we're talking about how quickly you can sometimes make decisions, I think that in itself as well is kind of, it helps to empower you, doesn't it? Because the more decisions that you make, and the quicker you kind of make these decisions, and with less I'm going to try and say that word, procrastination.
Right.
It does help you, because then you've got the evidence, haven't you? Okay, do you know what? This was an occasion where I did mess about. I was like on it. I was going to make that decision, and then I made it, and then this is what came from it. And I think sometimes that can really help. And I think that when we're sometimes when we take too long and we're not sure,
it gets cold.
I think that sometimes that can it can be to our detriment on occasion. So definitely about the decision making. I totally agree.
It's so funny because I didn't ask anyone when I started Chai Together. I don't need anyone's permission. It's so interesting because Liz, before we wrap up, I had no boundaries. I was in your situation, narcissist. Even my baby dad was narcissist, everything. And it's so interesting how you said in a short amount of time my turnaround, because it's honestly a combination of things, right? Like you said, you want to learn more about yourself. So being in those programs with Bob Proctor, and being a Reiki practitioner, having psychotherapy. I'm going to have a hypno session this Friday for the first time. Investing in yourself, reading, traveling, speaking, graduating school, now going to school, like doing all these things. It's like, it's because I made that decision to do it. But if it wasn't for a combination of things, your process wouldn't be as advanced. I'm glad I invested in myself, and I advanced that quickly because of that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's well, you coupled with, how like your mindset is, and some of your, experience that you've been in, these things all kind of, when they come together, they make for really strong human beings that can empower themselves and others. And I think that, that absolutely, you're definitely that version.
Like I said yesterday, I was telling Andre, I was on the live, I was like, I'm so excited for my life. Like, how many people that can just say that? It's like, not most people can't. And it's like, I'm excited for this next chapter. And usually when people go to school or something, it's like you may feel like you're stuck in a career. I don't feel like I'll be stuck in anything. Like I'm doing this for myself to give back, to, you know, advance myself. And then you can always change careers, change things you want to do. As long as I'm living, it's worth a try because I don't know when I'm going to die. So I have to do what I can now. That's just how I look at it. Life's not that serious. But I feel like once someone gets to that point and they don't take it so seriously, they can live more freely, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And that is that thing, isn't it? And I remember something that really helped me, and I can't remember the author of the book, shame on me, but it was a book, and it was it's not my business or something what you think about me. I can't
That's
remember
right.
now.
I need to
And
write something like that. I need to
yeah,
write like, listen.
and it's great because actually I think you do get to a point in your life where you know, I'm not totally there because you know, I do feel like that, but I think, you know, I'm slowly getting there, but in a positive way of, you know what, it's just a better understanding that just because somebody thinks something about me, or, you know, has, you know, has heard something about me or whatever, that really, you know, that really doesn't matter. And regardless of whether, however that makes me feel, that's something separate. But actually, in the scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. And actually, I think sometimes, you know, so much of, you know, so many people, and I can honestly say for myself as well, that, you know, that worrying about what other people, you know, thought about me, or how I come across, as, you know, has been to my detriment. Because, you know, I think that we can all empower ourselves and be much stronger when we're not thinking about what other people think of us. And I'm still on that sort of journey now, you know, hands up, I admit.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's coming, and it's going to be positive when it gets here.
So, like Dan Penna says, I discovered Dan Penna yesterday,
Hmm.
and like he says, fuck them. So that's my answer is fuck them. He's like, your spouse, your family, your friends, they don't support you, fuck them. Like, he's my style of a person for real. Like, if you're not with me, you're against me. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
That's so important. And once you realize that, because there's people, I have a great, like more than enough, I feel, amount of true friends and true people that come on here
yeah,
who are like, what can I do to support you? How can I help you more? That's what you call a genuine person who actually cares about what we do here, who wants to be a part of something because they care genuinely.
yeah,
Then
absolutely,
you have
yeah.
people who you never hear from again, or you have people who aren't over delivering and don't care, and those aren't my kind of people.
Hmm.
And I rid of them fast now. So
Hmm.
it's really interesting, and I'm just grateful that I even have those few, because it
Yeah.
only takes, you know, like the Dr. Seuss quote. What is the quote? Can you remind me? I'm like blank.
What quote? Sorry.
Oh, it's to the world you may be one person, but to one person you may be the world. That
Oh, okay.
quote.
I think I've heard
I just
that
needed a
somewhere.
moment because, you know, I didn't have a great sleep last night.
No.
Oh God. So yeah, and yeah, that right there, like sometimes you just need like one person, because I still remember that one teacher or that one person who uplifted me, and I still keep in touch with her today. And when I was going through those tough times, she bought me my senior hoodie and a donut for my birthday, and no one was doing anything like that for me at the time. I was so numb and traumatized. She didn't know what was
Yeah.
going on with me, but she made a difference in my life, and now she sees what I do. And it's really remarkable because kind people like that leave an imprint on, you know, to make me keep doing kind things too.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And it is about sort of serving others. And sometimes, like, you know, I kind of, you know, remember when I was, you know, going through a, you know, a really kind of traumatic time when I was kind of, you know, actually breaking free from my relationship. And I remember thinking, I just don't feel good about myself today. I really just don't feel good. And I remember I saw this lady, and she was in a supermarket, and she was dressed so lovely, like shoes, everything just matched, and she just looked beautiful. And I said, you look really beautiful. And she literally looked at me and went, you've made my day. And you know what?
Wow.
Immediately, I couldn't find it within myself, I'll be honest with you, to make myself feel good. But you know what? Saying that to that lady and seeing her reaction, all of a sudden, I started to feel so much better. Do you know
Wow.
what I mean? Don't get me wrong, I didn't go around to every store, just go in and say something to everyone,
Yeah.
even though that would have been lovely. But it was just kind of started something. Do you know what I mean? Just that little something
Yeah.
needed to kind of kickstart that positive vibration that, do you know what, this, other people, they appreciate just that little thing. And that took no time for that to come out of my mouth. Seconds. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When she said that, I just was like, yeah, that this is what it's about, and that's actually something that I do. I say to myself every day, I'm going to give somebody a compliment, just somebody a compliment. And it's so easily done, but can make such a difference in somebody else's life.
I love it. I love it. Let people know where they can find you, your website.
Yes. So I know we spoke about this before. So it must be just like www.lisreallywhat.com. Yeah. That's
Liz really
LIS
what?
really what.com. Yeah. And on there you can book me for speaking events, or you can actually listen to my speech at the World Coaching Leadership Summit. That's on there as well. And
Liz really what?
yeah, I know. So and yeah, and just anything that one-on-one coaching or whatever. But yeah, like Calendly link, if you wanted to have like a 15-minute consultation, it can extend the time. It's just 15 minutes just for the trying to sort of get them in. So but yeah, that's where you can sort of find me. And I do sort of posts on all social media sort of once or twice a week, just kind of sharing little tips about sort of self-care, or some questions that people may have asked me about coercive control. And so yeah, that's sort of me, really.
I just want to say one more thing. Thanks for those tuning in. But one thing I want to say is I didn't know about the meaning of this coercive control. Is that correct? Coercive,
Yes,
right?
yeah, coercive control, yeah.
And I like everything on your website, like the whole meaning behind it. And what I was saying earlier about the game, it reminds me of like being upbeat when it says, inner game. It makes me feel like empowered. It makes me think of those action movies like Sucker Punch. Do you know that movie? Like
I haven't seen that. No.
Yeah, basically it's like, they have the music going, they're like fighting. Like it reminds me, like you remind me of that vibration of like, fighting for what you want, and like I'm ready to do whatever it takes. Like that's what I see when I see your website. Like that's how I feel.
Yeah.
And like your posts, like you're always just happy, and it's not enough of that. Like going around, especially now, and it's some people have deactivated their accounts, or totally like isolated because of something that's gone on in COVID. But it's so important for the people who can stay strong and show other people like, hey, you can still be happy now.
Yeah,
so I really like it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for like, I don't know, like blessing me throughout COVID and everything. And now what I'm about to do with my career next, I could have never imagined, because I almost gave up on school. Even last year, I was in my graduation semester and I almost left because I was so bombarded with speaking and everything that I almost didn't graduate, because I was going to quit on school. But I'm glad I didn't, because then I got my degree this year, and I never thought, like, I didn't think, I would be able to complete it. So now it's like one day I'm going to have my doctorate. So it's like,
and it's amazing, and it's wonderful. And it's that, and you can just keep imagining on that and how you want things to be, for all the details in. No one can take away that imagination and those details that you put in, of how you want it to go and how you want it to be. And I think that's just absolutely amazing.
And I'm the first in my family. I'll be the first in my family, like generation, to ever like, I'm the change, I'm the black sheep. And it's so interesting. No one has done anything like that I do here at all. So I'm different, and I have to own that.
Yeah.
And also, I want to tell you,
owning it very well.
Yeah. Before we go, I want to tell you that yesterday, Andre was like, the guest who came on before, I think we went live, he was like, are they fake? I was like, no, it's real. Like, they're a brand. They're my glasses. Like, those like fake, like big glasses. Like, these are real.
No, they look awesome.
But I will get them tightened today. But it's so interesting that life is fun. Like, so I have this balloon tattoo. Oh, hold on. Like, I have a balloon tattoo, and it says dreamer. I got this in Thailand. And I got that because I was teaching kindergarten. So, I teach kids and work with kids my whole life, right? Like different ages and different jobs. And I got this because the kids loved it. It's something fun. It doesn't need to have a meaning. a
Yeah.
balloon, because why not?
Yeah.
It's skin. We're going to perish one day. And I'm just so glad that trauma leads you to be careless. That's no good, because it led me to like a dangerous black hole. But
Yeah.
now I'm out of the black hole, but I can still be careless and like free in art and other things, instead of putting my life in danger. Now I can express that in other ways that aren't as serious, if that makes sense,
Yeah, no, it makes total sense, and I think that
Yeah.
that's so lovely. And I think that the age that you are and what you do and what you've done
Yeah.
is just, it is absolutely fantastic. And you know what,
20.
you are an inspiration, and you know what you do. People will hear you, and they resonate with your words, and they resonate with your story, and they've seen what you've been through, and you are as well. I know you do this. You know, you do your what you do, and you invite people on, and that, but ultimately, you know what, the people come on because of you. Do you know what I mean? Because of who you are as a
Oh,
person,
yeah.
and that makes a massive difference, because anybody can do what you're doing, but it doesn't mean to say that
But they
people
don't
are
have
going to
my
be willing to come on.
personality.
You know, and I think that that's something that, you know, that's really, it truly is just something lovely to see,
Wow.
and especially at your age as well, and just keep doing what you're doing, because it's special, and you touch a lot of people.
I'm going to let this sink in today, because my whole life, Liz, even when I was going, like when people were beating on me, or like when all those things were happening, right?
Hmm.
Horrible. Like every moment felt like I wanted to die. But I affirmed to myself, someone out there needs me. Like I was going to get a tattoo. I was like, love lives here. And I just kept thinking that, the greatest of writing comes from the greatest of pains. And I kept thinking that I'm amazing. Like I was hurt by my family, but everyone else loved me, like strangers and outside. Oh, you're so pretty, or we love your personality. That's how I knew, I'm not going to kill myself, because other people do care about me, even if it's not, in my environment now, and
Yeah.
traveling as well. So that was just really great. Yeah. To know that I can keep going, and looking now, like, so I was an inspiration even through the trauma in my post back then, when I was like early 20s. And
Yeah.
now I'm 28, and now I'm like doing the actual work and have overcome,
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
fascinating.
Yeah, and you know
But
what? And
yeah,
sometimes when you have, days, because we all have days, where we feel, slightly low, or we feel a bit, sort of low and down, and actually that's always things like this, these conversations that you can
yeah.
actually tap into, because it's evidence of the opposite of what we're feeling at the time, and that can only bring us
Yeah.
up.
I
Yeah.
manifested it. I manifested it. All right. I'm not going to keep you longer. And thank you so much for being on today. This was really refreshing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, thank you for inviting me on. I'm
Yeah.
literally just so humbled and grateful and appreciative, and all the other lovely positive words that I can't actually think of at the moment.
Aw,
So thank
thank
you
you.
so
Right. Oh,
much.
you're like me.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you,
thank
Miss
you.
Beverly, for tuning in, and anyone else. And I really appreciate it. Have a great, what's today? Thursday. Have a great Thursday. This is what happens when you don't have a job. So thank you.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.